Hey girl, hey, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Misha. Thank you guys for joining me yet again. If this is your first time here, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you will be updated each and every time I post a video if you like what you hear. And for those of you who have been here for a second or third time and you've just been looking and haven't hit that subscribe button yet, what are you waiting for? It's a good old time over here. Tonight we were going to be reviewing the Wendy Williams movie, so let's get into it. Lifetime, y'all did this all the way right. From the casting to the wigs to the storytelling to, I was on the edge of my seat, honey. I laughed, I cried, I was all enthralled in the whole everything that is Wendy Williams. So let's get into it. How you doing? Okay. The person that they casted to play Wendy Williams, Sierra Payton, honey, you did that. Okay? I'm just going to tell you right now, you did that. From the big boobs to the tiny waist, them little knock knees, those bad ankles, that flat back, you were Wendy all the way up and down. The way you bulged your eyes, the way you held your hands, the way you spoke, so New York-like. It was everything. It was everything. So salt and pepper, okay? Wendy didn't take up 3 hours of our lives telling us nothing but fluff or things that we've seen in the tabloids. We got into it. So if you're going to get into it, let's get into it. Okay? So this is how it should have been done. Y'all gave us 3 hours and I feel like I got absolutely nothing. Plus y'all did Spinderella wrong. So it really don't even matter, honey. Let's just act like it ain't even exist. Let's keep on moving. When the movie starts out, we see Wendy Williams as a young girl. I think she's about 11 years old. And Wendy thought she was lit. Wendy had all the self-esteem in the world, child. Wendy was like, look, I'm a big personality. I'm beautiful. I'm me. But it was her family who was instilling in her something different. The family was making her feel like she was less than. She was trying on this dress and she couldn't quite get it on. But she's a kid. They have baby fat. So she's trying to put the dress on. She couldn't quite zip it up. And then her dad walks by. And her dad's like, oh, Wendy, you're so beautiful. If you just lose a little weight, if you just lose a few pounds, that's terrible to say to an 11-year-old, especially a female, when we have so many other things to worry about, okay? We worry about if we're as pretty as the next girl. Should I wear this or should I wear that? How am I going to look? Am I ever going to be a mom? Should I be a mom? Is it wrong if I don't want to have kids? Can I do this male-dominated job? Like, it's a lot of things that we worry about already, so don't dump self-esteem issues onto a girl, and we already have so many things to worry about. It's girls and guys. Just don't do that to your kids. That's just the bottom line, child. So Wendy knew that she was destined for greatness. She always thought about moving to the Big Apple. She lived in Asbury Park. That's where all the nice families are with the white picket fences, and they dress nice and they talk nice, and everybody's so polite and well put together. But Wendy was totally different. Wendy was a little firecracker, child, honey. She ended up going to this birthday party, and she was so big that she broke the chair. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Wendy, child. Girl, get up off the floor. Her mama was embarrassed, of course. Those moms. And she was like, Wendy, I can't believe you broke the chair. Oh my God, they're never going to invite us back. Okay, girl, she'll be fine, okay? The little white girl going to be all right, okay? Because today's date, she is Wendy Williams, okay? So they went to this party, but Wendy, she always thought that she was destined for something bigger than just Asbury Park. And she thought that radio was her out. And she would buy tabloid magazines to get all the celebrity gossip. And she would listen to the radio for her escape. And she would even get her brother to pretend like she was interviewing him. And she was doing this all the time. And she had an idol. Her name was Carol Ford. And Wendy just swore that she would be one day as big as Carol Ford. And you know what? That's what I mean by manifestation. You speak things into existence. You can speak your whole entire life. Life and death is definitely in the power of the tongue. And I say that all the time. And Wendy manifested the hell out of her life. Did she not? Okay, let's get into it, y'all. So as time is going on, Wendy, her mom puts her on a diet. She's worked literally everywhere, but her start was at Radio 1, where Kathy Hughes hired her to work. Well, when she was working for Kathy Hughes was kind of shady. And I was kind of shocked looking at this movie because they speak so highly of Kathy, especially the TV One family and the Radio One family. It's all about Kathy Hughes, and she speaks so, eloquently about all things black. So I was kind of shocked at the way she was depicted in this movie. But this is Wendy's truth, so we're going to roll with that. So they treated her kind of, a little bit crazy at this radio station. And of course, like I said, her parents had already put all this self-esteem stuff on her and kept drilling in her head, you're too big, you're too big, you're too big, you're too big. So Wendy started doing coke. She would do coke in the bathroom at work. She would do coke in the car on the way to work. I mean, she would do it all the time. And people who do cocaine, they don't have an appetite. So they lose weight rapidly. And so that's what she was doing to keep her weight down. Well, one day she had an interview with this famous, I guess he was a singer. I don't know if he was a singer or a rapper, but I know he was an entertainer. His name was Ricky Tony. And y'all know I went straight to Google like, okay, who is Ricky Tony in the Wendy Williams? And clearly I was not the only one, because as soon as I put it in Google, it came right up, honey. I'm like, dang, can I get the R on there before it come up? So I went to go Google who is Ricky Tony. This guy came for an interview. Wendy interviewed him, and he thought Wendy was cute. Now, for those of you on this review thinking, who would look at Wendy and think she's cute? Wendy was beautiful. I'm going to insert a picture of how Wendy actually looked back in the day. So Wendy went with this guy because he said he was going to have a party, and he wanted her to come. He was on his way to a party. He wanted her to come, but first he needed to stop by the house, and he needed to change. So Wendy was like, I just got chose, so of course I'm going. So they get to the hotel room. He goes in and comes out in nothing but his boxers. So of course Wendy's like, well, I don't want to have sex with him, and I don't even really want to touch him really, but I'm happy to be here. He comes out, forces himself on her, and raped her. Now Wendy called it date rape. And to me, date rape is when somebody slips something in your drink and then they take you home and they rape you. But I guess she said back then that's what they call date rape. So she was raped, and she kept that secret to herself. Nobody knew, not her family. She didn't have any friends, because throughout the entire movie I never seen her around anybody except her assistant. And it's even that way now. I mean, the only person I ever see her even saying anything to is Norman. So Wendy went home. She internalized this whole pain. She kept it to herself. She cried. She said she scrubbed her skin. She got in the bathtub and she tried to wipe it all away. But at that time, the AIDS epidemic was roaring. So Wendy decided that she was going to go get herself an AIDS test. She said she got tested for AIDS 4 months straight and she was clean. So she decided, you know what, I'm not living in fear anymore. I'm good on that. And so Wendy decided that she was going to start living. But she started living the wrong way, honey. That's when she got really heavy into drugs. She was always clubbing. She was always partying, staying out late. And she didn't have to be to work until 4. So she would sleep all the way up until it was time to go to work. And those graveyard shifts will do that to you. Because when I was in college, I worked at an overnight restaurant. I worked at like a Denny's or an IHOP. And I would work the 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. shift. And no, actually 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. And my sleep schedule was so off. I would literally sleep all day long, wake up and go to work. But anyway, so she got raped, and then she decided that she was going to take charge of her life. She started clubbing, going out. She was never late for work though. Even though she would do this on a daily basis, she never was late. So then she ended up getting a part-time job in 1998 in New York. And she said she loved that. And people wanted to start befriending her because she started popping. You know, she started gaining clout and she had status. So people wanted to be around her. But she said, you know, I'm my own best friend. So I feel like as long as I can stick with me, I'll be good. Then she ended up getting a job at 103.5 for 2 years. And then in 1990, she started working for Hot 97. Now, this is when I discovered her. Because even though I didn't live in New York, I would stream her radio show because she had all the celebrity gossip. If you wanted to hear anything that was going to break, you needed to be listening to Hot 97 and you needed to be listening to Wendy Williams. Because she was going to give you the tea. Okay? Not these hot topics she get off of Instagram now, child. Not that. But the actual tea. Okay? So all of a sudden, they just abruptly fired her. So they told her she needs to go get married and then have some children. Okay? And then Kiss FM became her job after that. This lady said that she wanted to work at a particular radio station. So she would wait outside. Every day she would wait in the lobby. Every day for 2 weeks. Until she finally got a break. Because somebody didn't show up for work. And Carol Ford was out, which was her idol. So she got to pick up where Carol left off, okay? So she manifested herself a whole new life in just that instance by being resilient and actually sticking to it. And then she ended up getting that spot and she started working for them. So then she broke this story about Total. And allegedly, one of the girls in Total was dating Missy Elliott. Okay, so I guess she really just couldn't stand the rain, literally, honey. And she was like, you know what, Wendy gotta go. So that's a whole nother story for a whole nother part of the review. Then she started to hire security because people were all over her. You know, her face was gracing magazine covers. She was really going through something. So she was like, you know what, I'm gonna have to hire security so that I can be safe. And then she started dating Eric B of Eric B and Rakim. I don't know if y'all are familiar with them, but she started dating Eric B. And she felt like he really cared about her. She thought she was in a full-on relationship. Child was in a full-on nothing. Okay? They were having sex, and he was using her, basically. So it was time for her to go to work one day. He ended up not coming until the very last minute. And remember, Wendy says she never likes to be late for work. And I am the same way. I do not like to depend on people for a ride or for anything because I do not like to be late. No matter what it is. I just don't like to be late. So anyway, he shows up and then the assistant comes in her office when she gets to work and he's like, hey, the rental car people are looking for this car. It was never turned in. And Wendy had rented this car for Eric. So she called him and she's like, hey, you told me you turned in the rental car, but you really didn't. Child, he shows up, okay? He shows up and he gives her the keys and then that was the end of him. Or so she thought, because then after that, Wendy ended up getting pregnant. She got pregnant by him, Wendy had an abortion. She did all this by herself. Wendy has really been through so much. She got so much inside. Wendy, okay? Because I know you're probably going to skim through these reviews just to see what people are saying. I loved your movie. I love your work ethic. You are the reason why I went into radio and television when I was at university. So this is not to bash you, but honey, you got to get some therapy. I know that you think you can handle everything, but just watching this movie and then watching your documentary, there is so many unresolved issues that you need to work through. And just talking to us and sitting in that purple chair and talking to the imaginary friends out in TV land, that's not going to do it. You're going to have to get some therapy, honey. I don't know why nobody ain't told you before, but I'm going to tell you, honey, as a friend, because you're my friend in my head, I'm going to let you know that therapy is definitely needed. Okay? Let's keep it moving. All right, so in 1994, she went to this club, and that's where she met Kevin, honey, and her whole life turned upside down. And as women, we already know that a man can come in and turn your whole situation. Like, why y'all just don't leave us alone? If you don't want to be bothered, if you ain't going to do right, just leave me alone, okay? Just pass me up. Don't look at me and target me. Just keep on moving. Okay, so Kevin sent his number over to Wendy when he shouldn't have. And honey, she should have never called him back. But Wendy called him the next day and he didn't answer. That should have been her cue right there. He didn't answer, girl, so it should be over. But she proceeded to leave a voicemail. Okay, that's what's wrong with them damn voicemails. That's why people don't leave voice messages now. Okay, Wendy left him a voicemail, told him, hey, I get off at 6 o'clock. Show up if you want the job. That's basically what she told him. Kevin showed up and they were inseparable from then on. Okay, so as the story goes, Kevin and Wendy were inseparable. They started spending every waking moment together. She really liked Kevin because Kevin was a thug, but at the same time, you know, he was opening up to her and treating her like she wanted to be treated. But this is because he was an opportunist and he knew she was popping, okay, quite frankly. And my thing is this: all us women, we always want somebody that's a little bit rough around the edges. You know, it could be a little interesting. It could be fun, but we don't need to husband them, okay? The same way they say you can't make a hoe into a housewife, you can't make a thug into a husband unless he done got himself together. I'm just saying. So at this time, you know, Kevin is the love of her life, and so she's in a full-on relationship, and she did let Kevin know that she was doing coke, but Kevin didn't tell her that she needed to stop. She stopped on her own. So for 4 days straight, she said she went cold turkey, and then she ended up stopping the drug use. So after she did that, she found out she was pregnant. So the first time she got pregnant, she had a miscarriage. The second time, she had a stillbirth. Okay? And then she had to end up giving birth to the baby, and that was at 5 months. So in 1999, she got pregnant again and had another stillborn baby. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is twice. So she had the baby, and then as she's leaving the hospital, they tell her that it's a girl. Okay? Kevin then thought to himself, he told Wendy, I feel like God wants us to get married, and that's why he's not blessing us with these babies, so let's just go to the justice of the peace. They go to the justice of the peace, they get married, and then a doctor tells Wendy that the reason why she's not carrying her babies to full term is because her cervix is weak. And, a lot of women have the same exact problem. Basically, whenever Wendy stands up, the baby is too heavy for her cervix and it causes her to miscarriage. So she decided that she was going to be on bed rest for 9 whole months. I don't know how she did it. I mean, she put herself under quarantine back in the day, honey. She should be used to what's going on right now. So she ended up writing a book. Then she blew up. Okay, I'm just going to speed on through the rest of it. She wrote a book. She blew up. Then Deb Mark called for her to have a show. And the Wendy Williams show was born, honey. And just to backtrack, she ended up having the baby. And that's little Kev. And when she had the baby, one night she got up. And this is what I'm saying about these men. She got up, to go in there and see what he doing. Look in the crib and whatnot. You know how we go check him out. And she heard Kevin whispering over in the other room, talking about, yeah, you want me to send you some money? All right, I'm going to send you some money. Okay, child, he had a whole relationship. So Wendy believed him when he said that he was not going to see her anymore, and she kept taking him back, and she hired an private investigator to follow him around and see if he was cheating, and each time he was, and each time she would take him back. And I think this is because she felt like she couldn't get anybody else. And her and Kevin had been together so long, and they were so known as that couple, and people were saying that, Kevin got street smarts, okay? Street mentality. Kind of like a Suge Knight type thing. So he handled whatever situations needed to be handled when it came to Wendy. Especially like the time when Total showed up at the radio station and Wendy was like, oh my God, they're here to jump me. Wendy ain't no fighter, honey. She sit in her purple chair and do her hot topics. Honey, Wendy ain't fighting nobody. So Total shows up. They're ready to get it popping. And so Kevin showed up just as they were getting out of the car. He shut that down, protected Wendy, ushered her into the car, and they drove off. So Kevin was her protector, and she appreciated that. So as she gets her talk show, Kevin is steady cheating. Then this man ends up telling Wendy, Kevin has a house not too far from where you are, and him and the woman, they're living there. Now I remember seeing this story in Touch, because I used to buy In Touch magazines every single week, and I used to buy them because they were only $1.99, and I wanted to know all the gossip before it came out, before anybody knew anything. I wanted to know what was going on. So I remember reading this story, and I remember Wendy going on her show and adamantly denying it. Of course, it's because she still wanted to keep the relationship going with her husband, so I don't blame her. But everybody was saying that this man had a house where he had this woman and they were receiving mail. So Wendy went over there, glued the mailbox together, child, wrote Wendy and Kevin forever. I'm like, girl, child, look, that's some white girl stuff, honey. I'm not about to be writing no Wendy and Kevin forever. I'm about to kick down your doors and smack your chick, okay? I'm about to pull a full-on Monica. So gone over you. Okay, I'm about to tear the whole house up. Then you're using my money to buy this chick a house to set her up. Child, I burned the whole house to the ground, honey, and then go get my insurance money. It's my house. I burned it down. Can I collect my check, please? Thank you. Like, what? I'm not about to write nothing. And then he came in and checked Wendy. You went to my rental property? I'm like, okay, he getting real crazy, honey. Kevin, you have lost your mind. When you find your mind, please return, okay? Like, what? And so Wendy started drinking and drinking and drinking because she was trying to suppress all the pain that he was putting her through. And so he basically was doing the same thing that Britney Spears' dad is doing to her. He decided he was going to have conservatorship over her entire being. So he put her in a rehab. And we were all thinking that it was because Wendy had got back on coke, but it really wasn't that. Kevin had his thumb on her neck and he was pulling the strings, and so he had her put in a rehab in Florida, and she couldn't have a cell phone, she couldn't talk to anybody, she couldn't read any magazines. They were treating her like she was insane. So she ended up having someone send her something, and it had a cell phone inside this stuffed animal, and they sent her this care package that had tabloid magazines. And so she's reading, and she realizes that while she's in Florida and we watching repeats of the Wendy Williams show, this man got his woman down in Miami with a full-on pregnant belly. Like, the woman is all the way pregnant. And I'm looking at the little chick and I'm like, okay, she cute enough, but at the same time, I mean, you're married to Wendy Williams. And despite what anybody thinks, love her or hate her, the woman is self-made. Okay? And according to this timeline of this movie, they actually did love each other up until the point where he found this bank teller at wherever. While he depositing Wendy's checks, he done picked up this stray and created a whole nother life for her. Like, that is insane. So then Wendy finally decides to let him go. And the movie ends with Wendy coming through the double doors. And we see Brendan, I think that's the producer. And he's cueing her. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And Wendy walks through the door. And we hear, Wendy, Wendy, Wendy. And I mean, I just cried. Because a man will break you down, honey. Kevin changed the entire course of her life. I mean, you could have left Wendy alone. I mean, you really could have. And the fact that he had emotionally abused her for so many years is just crazy. And then I was watching her documentary and she cannot even talk about him without crying. It still hurt there. Okay, that is her one. You know how you always, I know all the women can relate to me. We all have that one you just keep running back to. No matter what they do, you gonna go back. And Kevin is that one for her. And just recently, her brother, who is talking way too much, said that she did not attend her mother's funeral, allegedly, because she was with Kevin. Wendy, I know you ain't that crazy, okay? And I know that that's not true. Because as I'm watching the documentary and I'm seeing all the hurt and all the things that you're saying about Kevin, I know that that part of your life is over. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. The movie was everything. I could not have done it better myself, even though it has anything to do with me. It was great. Okay, and if at first I was like, oh Lord, here go another Lifetime movie, because y'all remember when Wendy produced that Aaliyah movie, honey, and that movie was it should have been a caricature. It was terrible. But this movie, you got it right. And you got it right in 2 hours. And we thank you so much. And your documentary really shed light on a lot of what people have been gossiping about in the blogs. And you told it yourself and you told it your way. And I appreciate it. So if y'all have not seen the Wendy Williams movie, then you need to go and check it out. It was inspirational. And it just shows that you can persevere and you can be your own person at the end of the day. And ladies, look, if you are in an emotionally abusive relationship, honey, reevaluate and get the hell out. All right. Well, that is my review for the Wendy Williams movie. I loved it. I give it a 10. The casting was great. The wigs were great. The storytelling was great. But I would not expect anything less because it is Wendy Williams. And honey, she can tell a story. Whether it be through somebody else or her mouth. She can tell a story. So I thank you guys for listening to me. I hope one day that this channel will be as big as her in that purple chair. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And I thank you guys and I love you guys for watching. As always, stay safe, stay blessed, spread love, not germs. Peace.